Hello everybody, what is up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Audra and welcome back to episode 4 of Chat with Audra. So I have been doing this series for what is now 4 months and I'm really loving it. I hope you guys are loving it too. It seems like you are. The setup is looking a little bit different. I got a new comforter, some new end tables in here. It's looking fun and fresh. Got something a little less chaotic, like my bright pink one when I was having a mental breakdown, if you guys watched that video. So now it just looks a little more toned down in here, but still fun. Anyways, we are on to episode 4 of Chat with Audra, and I'm very excited for today's topic. So we are just going to jump right in and get started. Like always, if you guys have any ideas for Chat with Audra topics, please leave them in the comments below. I read them and I go through and pick out what topic I'm going to talk about on here. So let's get started. And today we are going to be talking about getting over stage fright. So I feel like most people assume that when you're a singer in a band, you just automatically don't have stage fright, but that is definitely not the case. I feel like normally it's actually the opposite. I feel like people normally do have stage fright. And I think it's something that you can work to get over because I had stage fright. I was a very shy kid. I didn't talk to a lot of people. When I joined the band, I never talked to any of them for 3 years of my life because I just was I don't know them. I came in later than everybody, so it was just a little bit awkward. Anyways, I was just a very shy kid. I never really was shy getting on stage until I was in a band, because the thing about being in a band or being in a musical or something even is so much different than just going up and singing karaoke, because it's you don't have to talk, you don't have to remember anything, the words are in front of you. When you're in a musical, when you're in a band, there's so much that you have to think about on top of not being nervous, and I feel like that is what makes people nervous. So that's my basic rundown of my explanation of how I think stage fright works. But let's talk about how I personally got over my stage fright. So we'll start at the beginning. My very first show, I cried. You guys have probably heard me tell this story. I actually learned the wrong song. So they told me to learn the song Hysteria. And when I searched Hysteria, the most popular and first song was the Def Leppard Hysteria. Little did I know, at the show, we were going to play the Hysteria by Muse. So I absolutely just learned the wrong song, and I was no, you know what, I can go learn it right now. So I went to the parking lot, I held up the words on stage on literally a printed piece of paper, that's how long ago this was, and I played the show, and I sang the song. Was it great? No. Did I cry? Yes. Did I not want to? Absolutely. Did my parents say, suck it up, pull yourself together? Yeah. Did it help me tremendously? Yeah. And I feel like sometimes you just need somebody to give you that push. So I cried, sobbed, was so nervous, but I did it. So I watched back the video. My dad took videos of it. You guys know these exist on the internet. You can find these. And I was like, what am I doing? I looked so awkward on stage. I was just standing there at the microphone, not really moving, just kind of bobbing up and down a little bit, every once in a while. And I was I literally can't do that. I look ridiculous. And so it kind of shocked me into okay, if you're going to do this, you better do it then. And I think that's kind of where my mindset went from there, because point number 2, after that, we kind of started filming videos. This was many years later. We'd already been playing live for a while, and I was better at moving on stage, still wasn't really great at talking, still definitely got nervous. It also was a point in my life where I was 12 years old. I was going through puberty, which sounds ridiculous to say, but it's true. And so not only was I nervous about being on stage, I was nervous about my voice cracking because my voice was changing. My whole entire instrument that I used to perform was completely changing right before my eyes, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I would already get nervous, get worried about my voice cracking, and then because I was nervous, I would sing different, trying to fix it, but I didn't know what I was doing, so then it would crack anyways, and it was just this never-ending spiral in my head. So this went on for a few years until we started filming videos. And we actually filmed the first M4 original song, All Eyes on Us. And Ryan was like, you guys, like, you have to act like you're having fun. You have to act like you're having a good time. And we were like, we can do that, like we can do it. So we all went shopping together, bought clothes for this music video, took pictures, But the way that he said it really like stuck with me. He was like, you have to act like you're having fun. And I was like, wait a second. This is way easier than I thought. I was like, even if I'm nervous, I don't have to let everybody know that I am. I can just act like I'm having fun. And at that point, I'd already been in musicals and I was like interested in like acting and whatever, which this isn't really like acting. But I was just like, I can think of this as like a character. And Tate McRae talks about this all the time if you guys have ever watched her interviews, but she's like, when I go on stage, I turn into like Tatiana. I'm not Tate. Like I'm a different person. And I feel like that's what happened to me. When I go on stage, I'm not Audra. I don't know what my name is going to be. I don't know who I am. But I'm not me. Like I'm just like a whole other like character. And I know that Trevor, that you guys know, can relate to this a lot as well because he does the same thing. And I feel like you put it up at first as a barrier. So when we were doing these videos and like playing these shows, I was like, just pretend, just act like you're having fun, even though you're nervous. And then it turns into actual fun. And I think what happened for me getting on to the next point is I eventually just started to practice being on stage because I was like, I've got to figure this out. I don't want to like pretend my entire life. Like I want to have fun and I want to like do it for real. And so I was, at the time doing like auditions for like The Voice and stuff like that, while also playing shows and filming music videos and like being a high school student. But when I would come home from school, I would practice in the mirror singing whatever song we were working on. Or if we had a show, figuring out what I was going to say before certain things. Like I literally would write down like before we would play like our original songs when we were younger. This next one is our original song that we wrote. It's called All Eyes on Us. You guys can stream it on Spotify, iTunes at that point, and you can buy it at our merch table after the show. But I would like write that down on my set list because I would get so nervous trying to think about everything else that I would like forget to say things. And then we would get to it and I'd be like, I didn't say anything to promote whatever we were doing. So I just started planning. I would practice in the mirror. I would write down what I was going to say in between songs. And I still do that for tour sometimes. I'll have a set thing of like, okay, in between this break, it's not as rigid anymore, but I'll be like, well, in between this break, I want to talk about merch. In between this break, I want to talk about social media. In between this break, I want to talk about our new album, and it's just like you get like an outline in your head, basically. So I would outline what I was going to say, which took that stress kind of off my shoulders. The next thing that I started working on after that, and me and Brooke were actually just talking about this the other day because she was asking me about tour and she was like, how do you like jump around and sing and do all this movement and not run out of breath and like get tired? And I would, like when I was younger and I used to go to like these American Idol auditions, The Voice auditions, all those things, I would get so nervous and I would start breathing heavier and I would get out of breath when I was singing. And I was like, this doesn't happen to me when I'm at a show. But if it does, what would I do? How would I fix this? And so I started literally practicing songs while jumping up and down in my living room. And I vividly remember the song that I sang for my voice audition, which I've talked about before and I could talk about in a Chat with Audra episode, is like what it was like auditioning for The Voice. I sang the song You Say by Lauren Daigle. And I remember jumping up and down and singing that, you say you're in love when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. Because I would get so nervous that I would start not being able to hold out those notes without them getting like shaky at the end. And so I found all of these problems and then I literally just found solutions for all of them. Because I was like, what would I do if I wanted to fix this problem? And then I just figured it out. So I think for me, getting over stage fright was all about like the planning. Like if I plan enough, there's less things I have to worry about, and therefore I think about it less in my mind, and I'm able to just have fun. Which brings me to my last point, and this kind of applies to everything now, to tours, to videos, to like everything that we do, especially with covers, even with originals too, because we write these originals, but we don't necessarily always play them live that much until we're ready to tour. So my last piece of advice and what helped me get over my stage fright is getting so familiar with, for me, the song, but it could be the material, it could be your lines, it could be anything, that it is impossible to not know what's coming next. And I think that's the most important lesson that I learned, and that's why we practice so much for tours, is because our Concrete Castles tour, because it's so short, I could name you the entire set front to back, like the exact order that we played it, and I didn't even have a set list in front of me. And we ran the song so many times that I just got so comfortable singing the songs. I knew exactly, which part I was going to change to make a little bit easier. Same thing with First to 11 tour. If we're playing new songs, I run them and run them and run them a million times over until I'm so familiar that I physically can't mess it up. And that just literally erases everything from your mind. We just took everything that was on my mind while I was on stage, making me nervous, giving me stage fright, off of my mind, and just let me experience it and like have fun. And so I guess moral of the story for getting rid of stage fright for me was just to be super prepared. And I was always like this in high school. Like if I had a test, I would be like, I physically can't mess this up. Like if it was a memorization thing, like I literally just know it front to back, easy. And I think it helped me because I started memorizing things so young when I was in bands and like learning lines and learning songs and memorizing them, singing them live, that you just like get to a point where you're really good at that. And now when we do music videos, like for example, today we shot 2. I learned both of the songs this morning, an hour before we shot the videos, and then knew them perfectly for the videos. And so I think it's just like being prepared, figuring out what works for you, and finding workarounds to things that make you nervous, because they're always going to be there and they're always going to make you nervous. I'm not saying that there's times when I go on stage and I'm not nervous. The first show of every Concrete Castle tour, I'm like, I know we've been practicing for a month, but I really hope everything works. I really hope everything goes smoothly. Because on a tour, it's so much different. You're in a stressful setting. You're trying something for the first time. You're with all these new people. You're using a random sound guy from the venue. And there's always little things that are going to make it go wrong. But I just focus on everything that I'm in control of. What can I do to make my life easier? What can I do to make sure I'm as prepared as I possibly can be? And I think that's, for me personally, how I got over stage fright. And I think you just have to find the things. This applies to anything, by the way, not just stage fright. I think it applies to anything in the workplace, in your personal life, whatever. Find the things that make you afraid. Find the things that make you nervous. And find a workaround for them. Because like I said, those aren't going to go away easily. But you can tone them down. You can make things easier for yourself. And I think that's the best way to do it. So thank you guys so much for watching episode 4 of Chat with Audra. This is the end of the episode of how I got over my stage fright. Thank you guys so much for asking me this question. I think it was a really good one and a really cool topic. And like I said, if you have any more topics or questions that you'd like me to talk about, to hit on here on Chat with Audra, please leave them in the comments of this video or any of the Chat with Audra videos. I have a playlist up on my channel that you guys can click on to watch all of the past ones as well. But thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you subscribe to this channel, leave a like, leave a comment, and don't forget, if you haven't already, to click that notification bell so you don't miss an upload every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's it. See you next week.